Chapter 5 Folie à Deux. Alex retrieved a first aid kit from his truck and began to disinfect and treat Lauren's plethora of wounds while I charged my phone and then did some online sleuthing. I proceeded to sit across from them at the table with my phone open to a website that had yearbook photos of students that attended Lloyd High and Junior High during 1982. Found Bradley and Sarah on this website where somebody scanned the Lloyd yearbooks and uploaded them, I announced triumphantly. Turns out the two never were in the same classes or anything, but I just realized where I knew her face from. Bradley had an old album he kept in his room that had all sorts of photos in it, and her yearbook photo was in it, taken in 1981. His room's empty, Alex stated. Nothing in the closet or under his mattress. I know, I said, but I doubt my parents would have thrown it out. Mom might have it, if she's still alive. You never kept up with Grandma? Lauren asked, then winced in pain as Alex applied alcohol to her wounds. My mom stayed with Dad after I ran away, I said. The last thing I heard of either of them was that Dad was in prison for something and Mom was fighting breast cancer, but was doing well. That was about 12 years ago. My mom had been impossible to locate since, and no idea what Dad is in for. With that in mind, I typed Dad's name, Lewis Kane, into a search engine and was surprised to see he had been in jail a couple of times. Twice in the 1960s for assault against a female, as in battery, domestic abuse, not sexual. And also in the 90s for the disappearances of 10 people. Sarah Coleman, Amanda Kemp, Martin Guzman, Harold and Loretta Garrett, Susie Philbin, Greta Lane, Jordan Mendel, Lucas Norman Stevens, and Ashley Walker. Harold and Loretta, I muttered. I can't believe I spoke to them. They were all reported missing? Lauren asked curiously, peeking over the counter as Alex yanked her back into place to resume her treatment. I nodded briskly, setting my phone down. All except Bradley, who was found dead. We know at least Sarah and Amanda died because we saw them. They're spirits, Alex muttered. I didn't believe in ghosts, but it's different when you're looking into the eyes of someone who's seen the other side. Lauren spoke with a quiver in her tone. How are they able to touch us? I thought spirits were supposed to be harmless. It's because they aren't just spirits, I said. I did some research on paranormal sightings, and one of the documented cases talked about a man who sat and played a full game of chess with his deceased grandfather and thought it was just a dream. It was very real, and the conversation was even recorded. The old man carried on as if he had no idea he'd been dead for 12 years. So he was a spirit? Lauren asked. Alex answered. I see them wander around this house for years. Some walk around it like they're still alive and just lost. They ain't see-through. They even leave footprints in the dirt and can move the curtains, turn the lights off and on, and open doors. The people at the gas station stood in full rain and didn't get wet in the slightest, I recalled out loud. I distinctly remember seeing the big drops splash on impact with their clothes. It was like they had no idea they were dead. How would you know these people died? Lauren asked. Because I put almost $40 in my tank when I was just outside Loeb, but it was just a delusion, I stated. Lauren chuckled and added a spin of logic to my experience. You sure it wasn't just two kooky assholes that ripped you off? I pulled the two 20s out and laid them on the table. I explained why the money was on the ground near the station. Lauren shook her head. I'm having a hard time believing what I saw. I mean, no one's going to believe me. You know that, right? I bowed my head and grimaced. I know. But I also know that I saw what I saw. I put my hand in the throat wound of that little girl when I was fighting her off. Bradley was hanging in the closet and reeked like he had been dead for weeks. He grabbed my wrist and wouldn't let go. Lauren visibly shivered. Alex finished up and put the first aid kit aside. I gotta get going, he said. Gotta survey the property. You staying? I asked Lauren. Lauren stood and sat next to me. You know I can't leave you alone in this place, she said and planted a long kiss on my right cheek. Alex nodded and exited through the back door, taking Rocky with him. We observed him walking to his truck, starting it, and then backing out recklessly. Lauren went outside to get some fresh air. In the meantime, I did a little bit of sleuthing online on my phone and looked up the number to the penitentiary where my dad was being held. I arranged a call with my father on the phone for the next day, but in the meantime, tried to get together some questions to ask him, writing them on my wrist so I wouldn't forget them. I got carried away with my online research and looked up the Loeb Ripper. According to what I could find, out of all the people who went missing, only 4 bodies were actually found. Harold and Loretta, the gas station couple, had been done in with a hammer strike to the back of the head and bled out. My father confessed to their killings, and I wondered if he actually did it. This was not only a shock to me, but I wondered if I could have been among his victims had I stayed at the house. The other two victims that were confirmed were Jordan Mandel and Greta Lane. They were a couple who had lived in Loeb for 16 years, having inherited one of the farms on the few properties not worth having your name attached to here, and were both stabbed to death. According to the dates of death, they were all slain in '84 in a very short span of time, like a spree killing. Literally, all of these deaths happened within a 2-month window, and that made me question why this sudden spurt of violence would occur out of the blue. It was also while my parents were married, which brought up another question. Did Mom know about this? I distinctly remembered her mentioning that girl when she confronted him during their last fight before Bradley tragically took his own life. Wait a minute, I pondered, suddenly as dots began to connect. Why would Bradley kill himself if my parents were fighting with each other? That doesn't make any sense unless... I looked up Amanda and Sarah and found hardly any information other than Sarah was a babysitter for a few years and vanished on one of the nights when she was watching Amanda at the little girl's house on the outskirts of Loeb. Ironically, more people lived on the edge of Loeb than in the heart of the town itself, which makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? The center of the town was dedicated to farmlands, fields, and dirt roads, while the outside was peppered with houses spaced too far apart to have reliable witnesses. I was hitting another dead end and removed my glasses. I rubbed my eyes and decided to take a break. I went outside into the night air and offered my daughter a cigarette. I came out here for fresh air, and that kind of defeats the purpose, she politely remarked. I rolled my eyes and sparked up. Whatever, square, I grumbled and took a hit of that sweet, sweet nicotine. I keep hitting dead ends. This thing's a real whodunit. I thought Grandpa, your dad, killed those people. I looked it up. He only confessed to 4 murders. I had no idea he even killed anybody. I recalled the facial reaction of the two at the gas station when I mentioned my dad's name to them. It was a look of horror. They knew him. It makes sense, but at the same time, it doesn't. What doesn't make sense? He went apeshit and killed a few people, right? I blew out a huge plume of smoke from my nostrils. It's nowhere near that simple, I said. Something triggered it, but instead of just killing a few people here and there, he did all 4 almost at once as if he were trying to cover up another killing, like an accidental killing. Seems very suspicious to me with it when in 2 months he took out the gas station attendants who were really cool with him and then turned around and slew some random couple in town at the only other house neither of my parents nor Alex's family lived in. The 3rd farm, my daughter commented. Think we'll find any clues there? I sighed. I wish Bradley were here. He must have known. He had to know. That brings up another question that's tearing me apart. Why? Why did he kill himself? Did he do something that warranted my dad going berserk all of a sudden? And if Dad was such a sadistic asshole, why didn't he kill his whole family instead of a bunch of strangers and acquaintances? What happened to the babysitter and the girl? How did they end up here, at this farm? What in the hell happened in '84? You think your dad would have the answers? She asked. Like, he would tell you over the phone? I talked to the state pen over the phone just a little while ago when they told me Dad actually confessed to 4 of the murders. That's it. 10 people disappeared, and he admitted to killing 4. Now, can you see the discrepancy in the math? You're right, Lauren admitted. Something stinks. Hold that thought, I told her and walked towards the shed where the generator for the farm was. I yanked the door open and used my phone's torch to look inside. I hadn't really investigated it much, but I was curious about something. Tools hung on the left wall from a rack with long heavy-duty pegs sticking out. All of the implements, such as shovels, hoes, and rakes, I expected to have medium to heavy wear on them. But as I entered, they immediately caught my eye. All of them were polished clean. Their black metallic surfaces had minor scuffs and scratches, but were otherwise brand new, as if someone had scrubbed the dirt off. That's telling, I mused. The door slammed shut behind me and I jumped in surprise, dropping my phone and hearing it clatter to the floor. Lauren? I heard a laugh through the darkness and heard a familiar sound. You don't grow up on a farm and forget what the sound of a tool coming off the rack sounds like. That distinct scraping of metal on metal. Bradley? I asked. I stooped and swiped blindly at the floor from my phone and my fingers grazed it. I accidentally knocked it under the tractor and knew I was screwed. I backed against the door and, using my memory of the layout, reached along the right wall for a flashlight. I found it, I pointed at the source of the sound I had heard earlier and saw a shovel was missing. In a panic, I swung the light back and forth across the room, my breathing quick and forced. I caught how loud I was and clamped my left hand over my mouth. "Shut up, Sam," I told myself mentally, and tried to reach for the handle of the door. I tugged on it in vain, as it appeared to be held shut by an unseen force. Then in the corner of the shed, the left corner, someone stood up. It was Bradley holding a shovel. He looked like my 16-year-old brother, without any decomposition like when I first saw him upon coming here. It was him, and he looked angry. I pulled at the handle of the barn door in a futile attempt to open it when he lifted it and swung the shovel hard, bringing it down on my head with tremendous force. I think I screamed. I forgot where I was and what was going on for a few seconds and felt the crown of my hair. It was wet with fresh blood thanks to a newly opened gash there. "Help!" I screamed. "Shut up!" Bradley yelled back. "You deserve worse." I deserved worse? What on earth did that mean? "You killed those girls, didn't you, Bradley? It's okay. You can tell me." With a mighty roar, Bradley raised the shovel once more and stabbed it into my left artificial calf. The shovel did minimal damage, and it bought me a few seconds to look for a weapon of my own. I got to my feet, woozy from the blood loss, and circled around the side with the tools and grabbed a hoe. When I turned to attack him, he was gone. "Bradley!" I called. No response. "Brad!" There was a click of the latch, and someone slowly pulled the door open. It was Lauren. "Mom, are you all right?" "Don't touch me!" I yelled and curled into a ball in the corner of the shed. My daughter stayed her distance and waited for me to drop the gardening hoe before approaching and lifting me up. "Was it Uncle?" I nodded somberly as she walked me inside. My left leg was now locking on its own. Bradley had forced the knee joint to tighten at random intervals. "Feel like I'm going insane," I wailed as she sat me in the kitchen. "I saw that one in the attic, Mom. I believe you. Trouble is, who's going to believe me?" Blood tracked all the way in and still poured from my scalp. I removed my glasses and threw them on the table as my daughter retrieved a towel. "Christ, you need stitches, Mom!" "Do you really believe me?" I asked sheepishly, almost ashamed. "Your old, alcoholic mother?" Lauren chuckled. "Yes, Mom. I have the scars to prove it." I nodded, assured that my daughter really was on my side, until something odd happened. She retrieved a .22 rifle from behind me and set it on the table. "This fell out of a cabinet when I was exploring the kitchen," she said. "It was duct-taped against the side and the back like someone was trying to hide it." "That's," I said, swallowing hard. "That's Daddy's rifle. He went hunting with that." "What'd he hunt? Tourists?" she asked in a tone I couldn't tell was sarcastic or serious. I shook my head. "I have no idea, sweetie." "Well, I just wondered if you knew anything about it. Look at all the dust on that sucker." The thing is, I knew all about that rifle. Daddy used to take me to hunt small game like squirrels and birds. A rifle like this caliber could certainly kill a person, but was it what caused their death?